You ever notice how heartbreak doesn't just happen to you, it stalks you, circles you, and then devours you the moment you let your guard down? Yeah, I'm talking directly to you, the one who knows what it feels like to overthink every text, to wait by the phone like it's life support, to replay every conversation in your head until you can't sleep. And let me tell you something harsh right out of the gate. If you don't deal with your anxious attachment, heartbreak isn't an accident. It's your default setting. Yeah, I said it. And before you try to click away or scroll to something easier to digest, stop. Because if you really want to break this cycle, if you actually want to walk out of this video unrecognizable to your old self, then you need to stay right here. No distractions, no skipping, just you, me, and the uncomfortable truth you've been avoiding your entire life. You loved the Avoidant X videos. I know, I saw it. You saw their games, their hot and cold patterns, the way they pulled you in just to push you away. You were hooked because finally someone explained what the hell was going on inside their mind. But here's where it gets even deeper. Because the avoidant, they're not your biggest enemy. You are. Anxious attachment is like an internal saboteur. It convinces you that you need closeness at all costs, that silence is rejection, that space equals abandonment. It makes you tolerate breadcrumbs because you're starving for crumbs of validation, and until you face it, you'll keep losing yourself in people who were never even capable of loving you the way you deserve. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. Every time you give your peace away to someone's delayed reply, every time you beg to be chosen instead of choosing yourself, you're handing over your strength like it's worthless. So let's confront this head-on. Anxious attachment is heartbreak on repeat because it operates from fear. Fear of being left, fear of not being enough, fear of silence. And when you live in fear, you attract what? Chaos. You already know it's true. Science backs it. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows that anxiously attached people report more relationship dissatisfaction, more jealousy, and more breakups than any other group. Translation. Until you do the work, you're basically setting yourself up to bleed out emotionally every time someone pulls away. But listen closely, because this is where it flips. Fear is not your fate. When you commit to rewiring anxious attachment, when you finally stop chasing reassurance and start building self-trust, you don't just become harder to break, you become untouchable. That's what this video is about. Not surviving heartbreak, but making heartbreak impossible to begin with. Here's the part where most people tune out. They'd rather keep chasing than face themselves, but not you. You clicked on this for a reason, so let me promise you this. If you stick with me until the end of this video, you will walk away with one shift, just one, that has the power to end the anxious heartbreak cycle permanently. You'll finally understand why you keep repeating the same relationship script. And more importantly, how to burn that script once and for all. But only if you lean in, only if you commit. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." That's the anxious attachment curse in one line. You torture yourself with what-ifs, with fantasies of abandonment, with stories you tell yourself about why they didn't reply fast enough. And yet, reality, they're just living their life. Do you see the imbalance here? While they're brushing their teeth, you're spiraling. While they're watching Netflix, you're checking if they viewed your story. While they're asleep, you're losing sleep. That's the prison anxious attachment builds. But here's the liberation. The moment you decide to stop measuring your worth by how fast someone texts back, the chains fall off. And before we go further, I want you to prove to yourself and to me that you're ready to stop bleeding for people who don't even care if you live or die. Type this in the comments right now. No more begging. I choose me. Write it not because it sounds good, but because you're tired of being the one who always sacrifices peace for proximity. That mantra will be your declaration that from this point forward you're rewiring. Now listen carefully. This isn't about demonizing you for being anxious. This is about calling you out because I refuse to let you keep destroying yourself in the same loop. You are not too much. You are not needy. You are not crazy. What you are is untrained. You've never been taught how to self-regulate, so you outsource your calm to someone else. You've never been taught that love is earned through respect, not constant reassurance. You've never been taught that silence isn't abandonment, it's neutrality. But that's why you're here. Because once you learn these truths, you become unbreakable. You become the one who doesn't chase, who doesn't panic, who doesn't crack at the first sign of distance. You become the one they can't play games with, the one they can't manipulate, the one they regret losing. And let's be brutally honest. Don't you want that? Don't you want to be the one who finally flips the script, who stops bleeding for people who wouldn't shed a tear for you? Don't you want to be the one who others whisper about because your energy is too secure to be shaken? That's why you need to subscribe right now and hit that notification bell, not because I need more numbers, but because you need consistency. You need a community. You need reminders that pull you back into strength when old habits try to drag you back into weakness. And if you're really serious, if you want the raw, unfiltered, behind-the-scenes content I don't put out here publicly, then join the Ace Wisdom Channel membership. That's where I drop the deepest insights, the real psychological breakdowns, the tools that don't just get you views on your ex, but build you into someone they could never even dream of replacing. The link is in the description. Here's the bottom line. Anxious attachment will destroy you until you decide to destroy it. You can keep bleeding, keep chasing, keep crying yourself to sleep, or you can draw the line here. The choice is yours. But if you stick around to the end, I promise you this. You'll walk away not just smarter, but stronger. Not just informed, but transformed. Because you won't just know what anxious attachment is, you'll know how to kill it. This is your moment, your reset, your evolution. Comment your mantra. Subscribe, join the membership. And let's go deeper. Stay focused. Key point 1. You confuse love with reassurance. Here's the brutal truth you don't want to hear. Your anxious attachment isn't about love. It's about panic dressed up as passion. Read that again. You're not chasing love. You're chasing reassurance. You want proof you matter. Proof you won't be abandoned. Proof you're enough. But here's the kicker. Reassurance is like a drug. The high never lasts. One text back calms you for an hour. One "I miss you" gives you a day. But then your mind spins again. What if they change? What if they lose interest? What if they find someone else and suddenly you're not in love, you're in withdrawal? This is why anxious attachment leads to heartbreak every single time. You keep confusing intensity with intimacy, but intensity is chaos. Intimacy is peace. Psychology backs this up. Research in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that anxiously attached people don't just want closeness, they want it constantly. And that craving, that need, is exhausting for you and for them. It's like handing someone your emotional oxygen tank and begging them not to drop it. Eventually they do. And when they do, you break. But let me put it in plain words. If you keep confusing reassurance with love, you'll keep breaking your own heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. That's anxious attachment in a nutshell. The late reply isn't the problem. Your judgment about what it means is the problem. You tell yourself, they're pulling away. They don't care anymore. I'm about to be abandoned. But what if it means nothing? What if they're just busy? What if it has nothing to do with you at all? When you stop demanding reassurance from outside and start generating security from within, heartbreak loses its power. Now, let's be confrontational. If you're nodding right now, if you're recognizing yourself in these words, then here's the deal. You've got two choices. Keep running on the reassurance treadmill until your legs give out. Step off the treadmill and learn the discipline of self-trust. And that's exactly what we're building in this video. How to detach your worth from someone else's validation so you never break the same way again. Promise for staying till the end. By the time we finish, you'll know the exact mindset shift that ends this pattern for good. No more chasing, no more begging, no more confusion between love and fear. But for now, comment this. No more panic love. I choose peace. Write it down. Declare it. Because this is the first cut you have to make if you want to break free. Key point 2. You mistake anxiety for chemistry. Let's rip the bandage off. Half the people you thought you were in love with, you weren't. What you were in love with was the roller coaster. The late replies, the sudden silences, the highs and lows that made your chest tighten, your stomach drop, your head spin. You called it butterflies, you called it passion, you called it soul connection. But let's be honest, it was just anxiety, and anxiety is not chemistry. Think about it. When someone is calm, consistent, and stable, you get bored, don't you? You think, this can't be real, it's too easy, something must be wrong. That's the anxious trap. You've trained your nervous system to confuse chaos with love. So when love actually shows up, peaceful, steady, reliable, you reject it. Because it doesn't match your addiction. And make no mistake, this is an addiction. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that the brain activity of someone anxiously attached looks eerily similar to a drug addict in withdrawal. That rush you feel when they text back, that's dopamine. That crash you feel when they don't, that's withdrawal. You don't want love, you want the hit. Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the view which they take of them." Your anxious attachment convinces you that inconsistency equals intensity, but that's not reality, it's your view of reality. Because real chemistry isn't chaos, real chemistry is peace that feels electric. Let me be blunt, if you keep mistaking anxiety for chemistry, you'll keep choosing people who feed the panic instead of the peace. You'll keep chasing the ones who destabilize you instead of the ones who ground you. And heartbreak will stay your default destiny. But here's the powerful shift. When you rewire your attachment style, peace starts to feel like passion. Consistency becomes exciting. Stability feels magnetic. Clarity feels intoxicating. And suddenly, you're no longer chasing the rush. You're choosing the calm. So here's your declaration for this key point. Type it in the comments right now. Chaos isn't chemistry. Peace is passion. Because until you rewire that belief, you'll always be trapped. But once you flip it, heartbreak loses its hold on you forever. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you're going to have the blueprint to stop confusing panic with love. And once you lock this in, your standards will rise so high that chaos won't even tempt you anymore. Key point 3. You turn relationships into survival tests. Here's the harsh reality. Anxious attachment doesn't let you love. It forces you to survive. Every relationship becomes a battlefield where the question isn't, do they love me? It's, will they leave me? Every text becomes a test. Every silence feels like rejection. Every argument feels like the end. And when you live in survival mode, you don't build connection, you build cages. Think about it. Instead of asking, am I fulfilled here? Your anxious mind asks, how can I keep them? Instead of focusing on whether they bring you peace, you obsess over whether you're enough to stop them from walking away. And what happens when your nervous system is in constant survival? You over-function. You overgive. You over-explain. You abandon your own needs just to keep proximity. That isn't love. That's desperation. Psychology proves it. Research from attachment and human development shows that people with anxious attachment often sacrifice their own boundaries, their values, even their self-respect, just to avoid conflict or abandonment. Translation: you're bleeding yourself dry to keep someone else comfortable. And here's the kicker: the more you sacrifice yourself to keep them, the less they respect you. The very thing you do to secure the relationship ends up destroying it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you seek tranquility, do less. Or rather, do what's essential. But you don't do less. You do everything. You text first. You apologize first. You chase first. You fix first. And in doing everything, you lose the only thing that actually matters: yourself. That's why heartbreak is inevitable. Because if you enter survival mode, you can't build true intimacy. You can't connect if you're constantly performing. You can't love if you're constantly begging to be loved back. Let me put it in your face. Survival mode is killing your relationships. And until you decide to stop performing for love, you will always end up broken. But here's the breakthrough: when you refuse to play the survival game, when you decide that your peace is worth more than their presence, you flip the script. You stop begging to be chosen, and you start choosing yourself. So here's your mantra for this point. Type it in the comments right now. I'm done surviving. I choose thriving. Because love isn't meant to feel like constant war. It's meant to feel like home. And the moment you step out of survival mode, you make space for the kind of love that actually builds you instead of breaking you. Stay with me, because key point 4 is where I'll reveal the secret mantra, and the first person who comments it will get pinned. That's the moment everything comes full circle. That's the point that turns heartbreak into power. Key point 4, you hand over all your power. Let's call it what it is. Anxious attachment makes you surrender your crown. You let someone else decide when you're happy, when you're worthy, when you can finally breathe. You turn them into the judge, the jury, and the executioner of your self-worth. And that's why you keep breaking. Because the second they pull back, you collapse. The second they look away, you crumble. The second they withdraw, you're begging for scraps like a starving dog. That's not love. That's slavery. Here's the unfiltered truth. They're not destroying you. You're destroying yourself by giving them the keys to your kingdom. Epictetus said it best. No person is free who is not master of themselves. Let that sink in. Until you reclaim mastery of your emotions, you will never be free. You'll always be a puppet dancing on the strings of someone else's attention. And let me be crystal clear, puppets don't get respect. Puppets don't get loyalty. Puppets don't get love. But here's where the story flips. The second you stop outsourcing your worth, the second you stop begging for validation, the second you say, I would rather be alone than be controlled. That's when you shift from powerless to powerful. And here's where I give you something no one else will, the mantra that changes everything. I own my worth. Nobody controls me. Say it, write it, type it, tattoo it on your mind. Because the first person who comments this mantra will get pinned at the top of this video. And more importantly, you'll be declaring that you're done surrendering your crown. Let me warn you, when you internalize this shift, people won't know how to handle you anymore. The avoidant won't be able to play their disappearing act. The inconsistent won't be able to string you along. The manipulative won't be able to gaslight you. Because suddenly, you're no longer a pawn in their game. You're the player who flipped the board. Psych studies back this up. When people stop relying on external validation and begin anchoring in self-validation, their relationship outcomes skyrocket. They choose better partners. They set higher standards. They experience less anxiety and far less heartbreak. Why? Because when you own your worth, you stop negotiating it. So here's the challenge. Comment the mantra, claim it, and live it. I own my worth. Nobody controls me. That's not just a line. It's the declaration that turns heartbreak into history. Stay locked in, because we're not done yet. In Key Point 5, I'm going to show you the final nail in the coffin. The hidden belief anxious attachment feeds on that keeps you trapped. Break that, and you don't just survive, you evolve into someone heartbreak can't even recognize anymore. Key Point 5. You believe heartbreak is proof. You're unlovable. Here's the lie that's been running your entire life. You think heartbreak means you're not enough. They left, so you must be unworthy. They pulled away, so you must have failed. They didn't choose you, so you must be unlovable. But let's cut the fluff. Their inability to love you properly has nothing to do with your value and everything to do with their capacity. Read that again. It's not that you weren't enough. It's that they weren't capable. The anxious trap is this. You keep taking other people's choices as evidence against yourself. You let rejection turn into self-condemnation, and that cycle is what chains you to heartbreak. But here's the brutal truth. Your worth was never on trial. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And the anxious attachment mind is poisoned with one toxic thought. If they don't want me, I don't matter. That's the parasite thought, the one that eats away at your peace, the one that convinces you to beg, to chase, to fold. But once you kill that belief, the game changes forever. Here's what happens when you flip it. Their silence stops being a verdict. It's just silence. Their rejection stops being proof. It's just redirection. Their leaving stops being abandonment. It's just exposure of who they really are. And suddenly, heartbreak no longer defines you. It refines you. Let's get confrontational. The day you decide your worth isn't negotiable, heartbreak loses its sting. Because love becomes a choice, not a lifeline. You no longer need them. You choose them. And if they can't rise to the standard, you let them go without bleeding. Here's your mantra for this final key point. Their rejection is not my reflection. Comment it, claim it. Because until you wire that into your soul, every heartbreak will feel like a death sentence. But once you embody it, you'll never again confuse someone's inability to love you with your ability to be loved. Stay with me, because now we move into the outro. And in the outro, we're going to tie all of this together into the final transformation. How you stop chasing, stop bleeding, and finally step into the kind of power that makes heartbreak impossible. The unbreakable shift. So let's put it all together. You've seen the patterns. You've seen how anxious attachment poisons your love life. You've seen how it makes you chase reassurance, mistake chaos for chemistry, turn relationships into survival tests, hand over your power, and worst of all, confuse rejection with being unlovable. And now you know the truth. Every one of those patterns can be broken. But here's the catch. Knowledge is worthless without action. If you leave this video and go back to begging for texts, spiraling over silence, and shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone, then you've just wasted the most important turning point of your life. But if you take these mantras, if you rewire your nervous system, if you decide that peace is your baseline and not panic, then heartbreak loses its teeth. Because anxious attachment doesn't get to run your life anymore. You do. And here's the thing. This is just the beginning. If you thought the avoidant X videos hit hard, this new era is where we go nuclear. Where you don't just survive bad love. You outgrow it so completely that you never attract it again. This is where you stop being the one who breaks and become the one who's unbreakable. Your call to action right now. Comment the mantra from key point 4. I own my worth. Nobody controls me. Remember, the first person to comment, it gets pinned. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next video. Because the next ones are about to rewire your entire perception of love, power, and self-worth. Like this video to push it out so more people trapped in anxious attachment can finally break free. And if you're ready for the deeper, unfiltered content I don't release in public, become a channel member. The link is in the description. That's where I drop the frameworks, the tools, and the psychological breakdowns that go beyond YouTube, so you can accelerate your growth and live at a level most people will never even touch. Here's how I'll leave you. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Your heartbreak was the friction. Your anxious attachment was the trial. But this moment, right here, is the polish. You're not broken. You're becoming. So claim it. Live it. And I'll see you in the next one.